we found pretty good success with recruiting overall. And our ownership has been really good about creating an inclusive and welcoming environment, not only just with diversity, but with benefits and paid sick time and paid time off, anything else that can really help support the staff and let them know that we recognize that they're the ones there doing the work, and also being clear with what we expect in terms of expectations we want them to show on the work they're doing.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Ops Leader Roundtable, brought to you by Instawork, where we'll be chatting with some of the top professionals in the operations and distribution space about how they keep their world running smoothly. I'm lucky enough to be joined today by Adam Grant, Vice President of Operations at Kotis Design. Adam, how you doing on this lovely Friday?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Excited to have a discussion and hopefully provide some insight into what we do at Kotis.
Absolutely. Now, I know we're baking here on the East Coast, about 95 degrees out today. How are things out in Seattle?
Summer has not started yet. Unfortunately, the sun is few and far between right now. We're in the midst of one of the wettest and coldest Junes on record. So feels like we haven't left November, unfortunately.
It's a shame. We're into pool season here, but the pools around me are not quite open yet. So hoping this weekend things start to get more in that shape. So, all right, let's kick it off. I think first and foremost, tell me a little bit about Kotis's business and what your role is there.
Yeah. We are a promotional product distributor with a real focus on design and technology are the two key components that we like to emphasize to our clients. We started out about 20 years ago. The owners were printing shirts for fraternities and sororities at the University of Washington, just kind of, making enough money to live and pay their bills and have a good time. And they decided to give it a go post-college and forego some other good opportunities through business school and other career opportunities, and started the business. And was a big part of the business was on college shirts still. College departments, locally and around the country. And then they started branching out into more of the corporate world and recognizing that there was a big need there for that kind of stuff. As we started to grow more and more, we started becoming able to fulfill and house merchandise for our clients. And to the point now where we have two locations in Cincinnati and outside Salt Lake City and Ogden, Utah, where we house inventory, pick, pack, and ship, and also produce some of those items as well for corporate clients all across the world, actually.
Okay, cool. So I know you've been there almost 20 years at this point, and I think last time we spoke, you mentioned had a little bit of an unorthodox path to a VP of operations. So tell me a little bit about how you got where you're at and kind of what your role today entails.
Yeah, no, it was, I went to college my goal was to be in the CIA or the FBI and, Jack Bauer myself around the world and try to help out as could. As I graduated, going through the process of interviews for that or local police agencies, one of the owners who I knew from school said I needed some help doing some random stuff around the business, sales support, picking up orders at our local screen printing place, deliveries, things that, was probably better for me to do than being a valet still. So started that. And then 18 years later, here we are. A lot of different roles, different tasks, different responsibilities, different buildings. And now I manage both of our fulfillment and production centers outside in the Cincinnati and the Utah area. And basically anything that goes through, in or out of the buildings or being sent to our customers, I'm dealing with my support staff and my teams at each location.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, certainly, I'm sure you're not the only person who's gone from, a very different role into the operations world. It's a skill set. It's not necessarily something you train for. And I think the ability to think on your feet and put out fires is a big piece of it, and certainly seems like something you're cut out for. You mentioned you guys have two DCs. Tell me a little bit about the facilities, the square footage, and kind of what goes on in each of those facilities.
Yeah. Both locations, like I said, one in Cincinnati, one in Ogden, kind of similar in terms of the buildings themselves. Architecturally are different, but what we're trying to do inside both of those is kind of create redundancies in the same processes over and over. So they're both doing things the same way. Our location in Ohio is about 56,000 square feet right now. 66,000 square feet. We're actually adding another 50,000 here in the end of November, early December. So that's one of our big focuses here in the next 3 to 4 months is really preparing ourselves for that expansion. It's a pretty big growth for us. We are busting at the seams out there right now. We've had a lot of success with that DC, and we were lucky enough to have one of our neighbors be leaving here soon, and we're able to snag the lease to expand into that space. And in our Utah location, we're about 88,000 square feet. Still room to grow in that one. But again, we did expand a little bit earlier than we wanted to out there to make sure we had that growth potential, because one of the things that Kotis, a little different than Kotis in our business model is, unlike an Amazon or Target or Walmart who are, shipping that same stuff and they own that inventory and they know their sales volumes, we sell the stuff to our clients and then they house it with us. And it's really on their timeline in terms of when they want to fulfill that and use it for projects. And so we have to support that as best we can based on our agreements. And so we always don't necessarily know exactly when those 10 pallets or that whole shelf of stuff's going out. So we're consistently projecting out space and averaging out uses and our clients' inventory set size and trying to make the best, business decisions we can with that information.
Yeah. I mean, how did you guys come to the decision of, Utah and Cincinnati as your two bases of operations?
Yeah. Well, we originally started the business in Seattle. And so being up here in the Northwest is great for shipping up and down the West Coast. Makes it pretty hard. It was a lot harder then as well, even 3 to 5 years ago, based on what the time and transit maps have for UPS and FedEx. But as we try to call more clients and ask them for business, it was hard to say, oh yeah, ship your stuff to us in Seattle, we'll ship it across the country for you again. And the costs were just kind of prohibitive for some of our potential clients. So we did a lot of analysis with some of our shipping patterns from our inventory sets that we had in Seattle. Started looking at time and transit maps, and it's not that hard to figure out that the Midwest is littered with warehousing and distribution for a reason. I mean, their reach, some stats are 75% of America can be reached within 2 days based on some zip codes out there. And so we really started to focus in on a few cities out in the Midwest and opened up the Cincinnati warehouse in 2015. And it's been just a fantastic spot to reach a lot of, national accounts with mailers going across the country and the Midwest and the East Coast clients we have. And then, so that left us with Seattle and Cincinnati. And as Seattle started to grow and change, prices went up, and it was still not allowing us to reach all our clients in a 2 to 3 day window that we wanted to. And so started looking at the Intermountain West and Boise and Vegas and Salt Lake City, and became clear that Utah was a great logistics hub for that as well. And so we moved into Utah in 2018 and officially closed our Seattle distribution center in 2019. And both spots have been operating well. We found great, reliable staff, and the time and transit maps for both UPS and FedEx have shrunk over that time. They're just getting faster and faster. And so we're able to reach the majority of our clients in almost 2 to 3 business days, and no matter which one we're shipping from.
That's awesome. Shifting gears a little bit, obviously the last 2 to 3 years have been a time of flux for a lot of businesses. I can imagine working in kind of the corporate promotional item space. A lot of that's going towards events, conferences. I can certainly relate. A lot of that has gone away in the last few years or not come back in the same way. So how did Kotis' business model change during COVID? And how did that kind of change how you're managing your warehouses?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the staff at both locations were amazing in terms of, not knowing what to expect. I remember we wrote letters for all the staff in Ohio because Ohio had some sort of stay-at-home issue or order going on in early 2020. And we wrote letters saying they were essential personnel in case they got pulled over by the police or, not knowing what to expect. And so, I mean, all the stuff that we changed and pivoted to over the last couple of years, the staff in each location did an amazing job of being flexible and and understanding and working with us who are remote and not there to try to make the best out of the scenario without knowing much during those early days. So couldn't have done it without them. But like you said, events were a huge thing. Trade shows, Vegas, Atlanta, Dallas, all those popular places. Those things didn't happen anymore, and so we were able to shift pretty quickly. And due to some of our technology, how we process orders, how we intake orders, and how we can ship them pretty quickly, we were able to pivot really fast to kitting. A lot of our trade show people, instead of doing in person, they did a virtual trade show with a client gift or a thank you for participating kind of thing. So we were able to fulfill that with our batch shipping, or just kits in general for HR kits for new employees or welcome kits. And that was a massive part of our business for the last 2 years. And it's funny you mentioned trade shows, because we're definitely seeing a shift back to more trade shows now. I just had a call with my warehouse managers last week about, summer season is traditionally slow for conferences with parents and kids dealing with out of school stuff, but I'm expecting a large shift back to in-person events come fall. And, we're trying our best to get ready for that and see those trends coming so we can do our returns and manage those pieces of equipment for our clients as best we can.
Yeah, I have to think, though, that kitting and kind of shifting towards these more bespoke products just puts a different kind of twist on how you operate, what's expected of your workers. How has that changed, from picking, let's say, bulk items to these sort of bespoke kits and boxes?
Yeah, I mean, we had to find some new vendors, right? I mean, we were doing some kitting. So it was learning new vendors and finding, how best they work, to kind of retraining some of the staff in we call it our finishing department, where, really taking that keen eye for quality and understanding that this product is actually going to go right to someone's house, or maybe still in an office setting, but it's really personal at that point. And so instead of packing 500 stickers and 500 pens and some flyers for a trade show in Chicago, like what you're doing is truly making an impact, and someone's going to feel the quality you're putting into it. So really emphasizing that was a big thing for us, and making sure we got out on time and we're hitting the right event dates. And, with the influx of kitting, making sure we had our metrics in terms of timing and scheduling done right. So if we needed to hire staff in a short term, we could do that based on what was coming down the pipeline. But kind of made us look at that a lot more than just the traditional, like, how many things can you pick and pack in an hour and get it out the door?
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned staff. Let's talk about labor a little bit. Obviously, labor has been a challenge for the past few years across not only warehousing, hospitality, just about every segment of the economy. What we're hearing, I guess, is labor shortages are starting to ease a bit, but there's still some strain and trying to find workers, especially as we go into seasonal peaks like Q4. What's been your experience with staffing? How many full-time staff do you have versus seasonal temp labor? What's your mix there?
Yeah, we're about 40 full-time staff at each location right now. Our relationship with temp labor is always, I think what most people expected is you call someone up or send an email and say, I need 5 people for 2 weeks or whatever. And that's traditionally how we still kind of operate, but we've gotten to the point where we're really trying to focus that energy on very specific jobs instead of kind of more of an open-ended thing. We found ourselves to kind of become a little less efficient when we bring temps on without a clear plan or a project. So we're really trying to work towards that. We found pretty good success with recruiting overall, and whether it be hiring a temp worker who came on for a project and we found that they were they have the qualities and the skill sets that we were looking for, versus just going out there on the job postings with our HR department and recruiting team. So our ownership has been really good about creating an inclusive and welcoming environment, not only just with diversity, but with benefits and paid sick time and paid time off, and really trying to reinvest in the employee experience with, ice cream trucks or food trucks or anything else that can really help support the staff and let them know that we recognize that they're the ones there doing the work and putting that hard effort in. And we do appreciate that. And also being clear with what we expect in terms of Kotis values and expectations we want them to show on the work they're doing. And so I think by doing all of those things, we've seen our turnover rates be much lower, and we still have way more work to do and try to help improve the employee experience as much as possible. But that's kind of one of the things that I try to, focus on as much as I can, besides the day-to-day operational stuff, is like, what else can we try to do to improve that experience for everybody?
Yeah, I think especially in a smaller warehouse like you guys are operating, 40 full-time staff, I'm sure it starts to feel like a family of sorts. People are always asking, what are some ways to build that culture and make people feel valued? Do you have any specific examples of kind of things you do to keep the environment light? It's a hard job, obviously, working in a warehouse. What do you do to keep people coming back day after day?
Yeah. I mean, all our managers do a good job of, I think this is always really important, is like a morning rounding meeting, kind of going over what's expected, what's going on for the day. Some days there's a 15-minute meeting, some days there's a 1-minute meeting based on kind of what's going on. But also, one of our managers in Ohio, she does a great job of, doing a weekly riddle or asking a question of the day and handing out little pieces of candy, just to try to even if people are just kind of waking up, they haven't had their coffee yet, coming into the building, just, kind of gets them, thinking and moving a little bit more than just, all right, have a good day, thanks, and clapping your hands. And so just, it really comes down to the managers knowing their staff and being open with them, and just knowing the ways to motivate them, not so much with just numbers and salary all the time, even though clearly, we all work for a reason. But, a lot of people do find, you spend a lot of time at work. Like, your life is, a lot of it spent at work. And so those little extra things that can help people keep showing up because they do feel like a family make a big difference.
What do you find has been some of the more successful tactics for recruiting new workers when you have had to hire new ones?
Yeah. I think our HR staff and recruiting staff have done a good job at kind of being outside of the box, whether it's, looking at universities or types of people that we're trying to find. Like, some of our internal tasks require a different type of person, artsy or creative, or maybe they think differently than just, pick, pack, and ship, or screen printing or finishing. And so having them, put job postings up at different areas or even different times has allowed them to find newer candidates. Some of our shifts are more flexible. So, reaching out to finding people who might have kids in school for 6 hours a day so they can work in the middle of the day, but they can't work in the mornings or the evenings, and being okay with that. And it's not so much just with the warehousing stuff, but, we have a lot of remote positions. Kotis is a fully remote employed company, except for our 2 locations. So we don't have an office anymore. So a lot of those people who do have those flexible schedules or have the defined windows have found a home with Kotis, and our recruiting staff has done a good job finding them.
You mentioned, the rest of the company being remote. How do you manage like in-person facilities from your house? What are some of the challenges there? What have you found to be successful as an ops leader?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely unique. When my owner presented this to me a couple of years ago, we went fully remote in like August 2019. So right after our Seattle warehouse closed, where I was driving to work every day, my office was now my house. And I was like, how am I supposed to do this? Like, I'm used to, helping pack or helping move a pallet or, talk to the drivers and do all these different tasks. And it's very hard from my desk at my house. And so it took a lot of mental shift for me. Some days were harder than others. And, knowing I have the trust of ownership and my boss was a big deal to me. So I didn't feel like I was always under the microscope to start, which allowed me to kind of figure out what I liked and how I could do it. And then, we do have cameras in our facilities, which helps me, ask questions, look into things if need be, or if, they're trying to explain things to me, I can look at that. But we talk on Teams constantly. A lot of our staff have iPads. Our managers have iPads and phones, and we can walk around on Teams and talk. We have good systems built in terms of seeing, metrics and schedules, productivity. And then it just becomes, trust and knowing you've hired the right people and they're getting the work done. I do travel a little bit, traveled a lot more than I expected during COVID, to be honest. So that was kind of a unique experience, seeing the country and airports in that manner. But it also helped allow me to get into those spots more and show myself in those moments because they were there working. So I felt it was kind of important for me to be there in person sometimes too. And, again, my mental shift was a big thing of trying to like recognize that I wasn't just hiding behind a computer, and I feel responsible for providing work for them and coming through the things I'm going to tell them to do, because I feel like I'm just sitting here sometimes. I don't want them to feel like I'm not doing anything at my desk all day when I'm trying to help out as much as I can.
We're going into the second half of the year here. What are you guys expecting for second half? I don't know if you have a traditional Q4 peak season or if it's a little bit different just based on the nature of your business, or what are you expecting from here through December?
Yeah, we definitely have, everyone's, just like everyone else, Q4 is a big one for us. We've got a couple larger clients who just do big promotions during those times and have a couple big festivals, and just it's their emphasis as well. So naturally it becomes ours. So it's looking big. It's looking, very full. Like I explained earlier, we are expanding our Ohio location in November, December, which is right in the middle of that. So that is going to be quite the interesting challenge to make sure we have enough operational space to add some picking and packing stations for the fulfillment or for some kitting projects or even screen printing capacity, and as well as making sure we have floor space for inventory. So it is going to be a busy Q4. I mean, the last two Q4s have been uniquely busy, but with supply chain, they kind of shifted a little bit. We got a lot of business and orders in the standard October, November time frame, but all the supply chains for our side of things moved our products coming in and our inventory coming to our locations, bumped everything back into December, into January, which December is traditionally a pretty quiet month for us up until the last couple of years. So I'm expecting that to still be kind of present. But I also know some of our clients who are big on in-person stuff have been sitting on the sidelines the last 2 years, and they're no longer planning on doing that come August and September. So it's gonna be busy. We're preparing for it now. It's kind of one of the things in the back of my mind every day. It feels like it's far away, but it's really not that far anymore. And so trying to get ourselves prepared for that is kind of job number one right now.
Yeah, I can imagine adding capacity at that point is not when you'd like to do it, but it is what it is, right? So I guess as you look ahead, what's keeping you up most at night now, or what do you expect to keep you up at night as we get into that busy season?
Yeah, I mean, first thing that often I think about is employee safety. It's always top of my mind, is making sure we're being as safe as possible, and people are doing the right tasks and the right equipment, and not taking chances. So that's always in the back of my mind. And then I think the unexpectedness of what Q4 is going to bring. I know it's going to be a busy thing, and it's trying to project things that, like I said, we don't control our order volume, our clients do. And so, we have expectations that they have expectations from us that what we can fulfill and how we can fulfill it. And so I guess, as long as we can keep hitting that, I'll be happy. But it's still, the tidal wave will come sometimes, and no matter how much you project, you're still going to be missing the mark a little bit. So my goal is just to eliminate that gap as much as possible, and make sure we're getting the priorities done. And, obviously another thing that I kind of worry about here and there, which I think most operational people will agree with, is how, the easy mistakes, right? The ones you look back on, you're just like, ugh, like that was a bummer. We just missed the mark on that one a little bit. And if you will, Monday morning quarterbacking it, try to figure it out so you don't do it again tomorrow or the next week. And just trying to wrap those things up as best we can before we get to Q4, because it's going to be hard to make those adjustments in the middle of that time.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our first Ops Leader Roundtable. I guess last question: anything you're excited about in the coming months, whether it's work wise or in your personal life?
Yeah, like I said, the expansion is it's kind of scary and stressful, but it's also really exciting. I mean, when we started this whole thing with Kotis and fulfillment, our first warehouse was a 1,000 square foot, strip mall office building next to our sales office. Like we we met a client at a football tailgate, and the sales guy was great at what he did and said, "Yeah, we can fulfill things. Absolutely. Yeah, send us your merchandise." And a couple of weeks later, literally a semi showed up in our office parking lot, and we're unloading things on the grass lawn, and we're running to Home Depot and building plywood shelves, and technically we now fulfilled things. So going from just that memory to over 110,000 square feet in Ohio, and looking at expanding in Utah in the coming years, it's exciting, it's fun. Like I said, this wasn't what I was going to college for, and so over the years doing different tasks and different things at Kotis and learning all about business along the way, it's been a fun ride. And these are kind of like the fun things when you see Amazon warehouses of million square feet, and these bigger companies talking about hundreds of thousands of square feet. I'm like, I'll have a warehouse in the 100,000 square foot range. And so while stressful, it's very exciting. It's a good accomplishment for all the team members part of it, and so that's one thing I'm looking forward to. And then kind of what we talked about earlier, summer in Seattle finally starting. So July 5th is kind of the make-believe date that everyone says summer starts in Seattle. So I guess counting down the days to July 5th.
Nice. Well, I've been out there for good weather, never been there for the bad weather, but I can speak for the good weather being very, very good. So I'm sure you're looking forward to getting outside, maybe getting into the mountains a little bit. But thanks so much for doing the Ops Leader Roundtable. Again, this is Adam Grant, VP of Operations at Kotis Design. And thanks so much for sharing your insight with us.
Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.